Hello, I'm Dan Ridenauer, Mayor of Muncie. On my right, I guess that'd be your left, is Mikah. Mikah is our HR director. She's going to speak here in just a little bit. I'm just going to do some introductions. To my immediate left, to your right, on the screen is our controller, Craig Wright. And then we are here visiting the McKinley Neighborhood Association meeting tonight. We're at Minnetrista, just north of the McKinley neighborhood, and we've got Bruce here. Bruce Rector is the neighborhood president, and we've got a group here. We've been asking some questions. We've kind of moved now from the neighborhood meeting into the Dream with Dan. So this is Dream with Dan. I'm going to go ahead and give some brief updates. If you have questions, please text them. Respond online. We will get to those questions and get those out there for you. So I'm just going to give you a couple updates, and then we'll get back to this particular neighborhood. First of all, the Gilman Home Center store is just about ready to open. They're having a little bit of trouble getting they're having challenge getting the merchandise in to have enough to be able to sell. That, you know, it's if you've got a business, you don't like to open up and then not, if you're a restaurant, and not have chicken or not. So they're just making sure they have enough inventory to where they can look good to people when they first start coming out. But know that that is very, very close. That's big for the South Side. And the former Red Carpet Inn is what we tore down, and now have that going there. And it's actually sparked some other things on the South Side, so we're happy about that. What we find is you take one step, and then it's easier in the second step, and the third step, and fourth step, and that's what we're trying to do on the South Side. That's what we're trying to do with the McKinley neighborhood, and that's what we're trying to do in other areas. So one of those other things that's down in that area is the Southway Plaza, which is soon to be known as Markets on Madison. We have completed phase 1 of the parking lot demolition. So the parking lot, if you've ever been to Southway Plaza, it was huge, and it was an old-time 70s, it's what I grew up with, 70s parking lot. I mean, it was light poles and concrete. That's what it was. So we have torn out portions of that. The hope is that from the owners of the shopping center that they will be able to sell those to restaurants and have restaurants in those outlots. But we're going to, now that first one's done, it's removed. They've already seeded it. The straw's down. The grass is already growing up. They'll now move to the next section. And then we have already designed what the parking lot's going to look like. Because it's an entryway into the city, I asked if the company who bought it, which is Brick Red Systems, a software company out of Seattle, Washington, and by the way, they're starting to hire employees, 50 to start with. They're going to locate inside there, but they're also wanting to have some other businesses, and they're working on that. But I said, because it's an entryway, is it possible I could help with the parking lot? Just green it up, make it more attractive as people come into town from the South Side, especially since that road, Walnut and Madison, when you get around that roundabout and head around, you're heading to all those new manufacturing facilities that are opening up. So I know there's going to be a lot of people. And they said, we'd love it. So we've designed what we're putting in. There's going to be a little pond. There's going to be some walking paths and some greenery and so forth. So, but the parking lot will end up being about half the size that it currently is, and that's all it will take. That's all they need in order to take care of their particular needs at that particular facility. So we'll be starting phase 2 and then moving forward with that. We also received in a hotel study. This was through the Muncie Redevelopment Commission. I asked specifically for the study to not tell us whether we need hotels. We do need hotels. The reason I know is we're having a wedding at our house with a family member, and we have some extra people trying to come in. And the cheapest in town to get something on Saturday night was $249. The most expensive, and most of them were $600 a night or above, and that's because they're full. So we know, and the report says that, yes, Muncie can definitely handle hotels. I asked specifically for on the east side because I want to spark development on the east side. So they came up with 4 locations. We're in negotiations on trying to make those locations work financially, and we've got a hotel company that's interested. We just have to find the right location. I don't know how many weeks or months it'll take to put all that together, but my intent is to get something started on the east side that can then grow the east side. But that hotel study was very positive, and we're working on that. Those locations will probably be on East Jackson or East Memorial and somewhere around the bypass. So on the east side, out by the bypass. And they felt that that was appropriate because it can very easily then service the new manufacturing facilities around the bypass very easily, much better than they can be serviced from the northwest side where all the other hotels are. Today, the Muncie Redevelopment Commission did approve, the Muncie Redevelopment Commission approved us buying the current YMCA. This helps them with their fundraising goal. We're going to lease it back to them for a period of time until the new Y is constructed. So, and we will have no expenses, but so that they can have those funds and move forward. We felt like that was important, and that's such a strategic location downtown. We wanted to, it's right by Cannon Commons, and it's just in an area where we see a lot of positives, and our city has seen a lot of positives, and we want to make sure that continues. So just letting people know that that's happened. With the parks, we have started, finally we got the approval. We had Riverview Park, I don't know how many in this room know where Riverview Park is? Probably a few. That's good. That's better than most. It's a lot of people don't know where it is, but it's right along the White River part of the Greenway, White River Greenway, Carver and Bunch Boulevard. So it was a totally underutilized park in a lot of ways. So we're in the process of, we've redone that. We've met with the neighborhood association probably at least 7 or 8 times, put together what we were hoping, what they wanted, back, and had to make it all fit the budget. But a splash pad is now under construction there, so that'll be the 3rd splash pad we've built. I hope it stays warm for a little bit, but it's now under construction. We're putting in some safer parking because that parking was not real safe. We're putting in some ADA compliant. We're putting in a restroom. We're upgrading the shelter. We're putting in some new playgrounds. Unfortunately, the way things are in the supply chain, a lot of that will not come in. The splash pad will be in, the parking lot will be in, but a lot of the playground equipment is ordered but can't be delivered till spring. So the park probably won't look complete. It won't be complete until the spring, but know that that's on its way. The other thing is we've done some repairs. We've started some repairs on 4 other parks. Tui has some problems. Tui has some aged swimming pool equipment, so we've started working on some of that. So we spent a considerable funds there. Heacon, we did some major repairs to some of the playgrounds and some other areas there. Jack's Park is another park that I felt like we've just kind of let, it just hasn't received attention, so we're giving it some attention. We've already redone the basketball court, and we've done that in a way that it can be pickleball or basketball, what you want now. And we're working with the neighborhood association to determine what kind of playground equipment they want, as they just have to fit within the budget, because we have to make sure we get all these parks done right. And then Morningside has some improvements that we've made. There's still a few more to make at that park. And then lastly on parks, and then I'll turn this over to one of the other department heads, we have a skate park that's going to be going in at Westside Park. So it'll be near Tillotson and White River Boulevard, right at Westview Park. It's being engineered right now. We have it already, it's being surveyed. You can see the stakes, so you can see where it's going to be. We had just planted a number of trees there, so we're hoping that provides some shade. I'm really big on trees. And you'll find that that'll be probably in starting sometime next year. But we have the funds set aside. We put a survey out to the skater community, so skateboards, roller skate, I don't know, the skater community, and we had 491 responses, so we were thrilled. That was much more than we expected. We got some really good ideas, so we've kind of adjusted a couple of little things, but that's something that's on the way, so know that that's coming. But we did spend some funds there. And I think that's it for me for now. So we'll be open it up to questions later. What I'm going to do next is turn this over. I'm going to let Mikah go for our HR department head update.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, this is my first time in this crowd, so I will introduce myself. My name is Mikah Wilson. I am the Personnel or HR Director for the City of Muncie. Mayor appointed me in October of last year, so I've been in the position for about a year now. Prior to that, I was his executive assistant, so I've been working for the mayor since January of 2020. I have an extensive background working in organizations supporting leaderships and their strategic initiatives, managing and improving processes, including human resource and leadership development, as well as developing and implementing new hire orientation programs. I hold a bachelor's degree from Ball State University in political science, where my studies were primarily legal administration, and I'm an active member of SHRM, which is the Society for HR Management. So the city personnel department does consist of myself and a specialist, Alvin Jones, and a human resource secretary, Marlene Mitchell. So we accomplish a lot with a very small but mighty team. Since assuming the role, I've worked with my staff coordinating a lot of work duties, mapping out processes, improving forms and policies in our department. The huge focus for my team is employment law compliance. So I have partnered with city attorneys in reviewing the processes that we have and will continue to utilize their legal expertise as we attend to those matters for the city. This year, the staff has been very busy with seasonal hires. It's been all year. Sometimes we have a lot of people come in at the very beginning and then they're there all summer. But we all know what the hiring environment has been like. We've got some employees, they come in and they work for a little while, they move on, and we've had to hire new employees. So that seasonal hiring process is actually still continuing. So we still have seasonal needs, and we are still working to try to meet those needs with our department heads. So they've been very busy with a lot of paperwork and getting everybody where they need to be, and to try to keep the staff flowing through the city so that the work that needs to be done for our parks and our like street department and such, all of our departments, our building commissioner hires part-time employees for the season, have the employees they need to do the things that they need to do by ordinance. I also serve as the HR advisor for the Muncie Sanitary District. My staff processes all the employment forms and FMLA for them as well. In return, they have two health insurance administrators who manage the health care plans and workers' compensation for both the city and the sanitary district. So we kind of share some work there, but we do work well. They are housed right out of our department as well, so it's easy for employees to know they come to our department for any HR needs, which includes insurance. We continue to partner with Shaper Leadership here in town for ongoing trainings, which have included training on conflict resolution, ethics in government, hiring process, and diversity and inclusion action plans, as well as managing workplace bias. I held a DOT supervisor training certification class for all of the CDL supervisors that we have in the city. We have a lot of CDL, Department of Transportation employees. So they are certified, as well as I've had to receive a designated employer representative certification. So I can manage that process for the city. Currently, we have some open, like I said, we still have some seasonal part-time positions that we're looking for, as well as regular part-time positions. Animal control, we have regular part-time position open. Prairie Creek Reservoir is still looking for part-time seasonal labor for the purpose of removing piers out of the water. So if you know anyone that's not afraid to get wet, even when it's cold, they have equipment and supplies for that, safety equipment. But it's definitely going to be a needed task. The victim advocate they need a full-time victim advocate in our police department, as well as a domestic violence unit coordinator. And our city clerk is hiring a deputy clerk for her office. So all of her clerks that work in there are deputy clerks. So she has an opening that she's trying to fill as well. The sanitary district has some openings as well, which we have a link on our website to get to their page as well. But they are looking for an electrician at the water pollution control facility. automated operator technician, vehicle heavy equipment mechanic, sewer maintenance seasonal labor, and sewer maintenance crew person. So if anyone is interested in any of the positions that we have open or taking a look at those, you can go to thecityofmuncie.com where in the human resource department, so if you go to the department and you click down in human resource, we have information on all of those positions, including a link to the Muncie Sanitary District. So you would be able to complete an application for those positions or link over to the Muncie Sanitary District site and complete an application for theirs. City currently employs, this is a question I had today, so I made sure I got an accurate number, 463 people. That's full-time and part-time, including civilian and police and fire. And it breaks down to about 339 full-time, 102 part-time, and that includes 12 elected officials as well. So Sanitary District does employ 145, and there is a police and fire pensioner program that has about 151 active members. So it's a lot. There's a lot there to manage and to do every day, and I'm proud of my team and for the city and the Sanitary District partners that I work with for the way we get it done every day.
And they do all that with 3 people, 3 staff. So great job, great job. Next, we'll just give a quick an update from our city controller, Craig Wright.
Hello. As many of you might know or might not know, but the whole city of Muncie's finances run through my office, all of it. So I've got a very tenured staff. I consider them, may get some people to argue, but some of the best people in City Hall are in my office. Many years of experience. They know what they're doing and do a fantastic job. It is a very busy office. We have a new deputy controller in Matt Wagley, who has done a fantastic job. My staff is consisting of Clarice, Diana, Deb, and Karen does our payroll. So that's the staff in general. And what I really wanted to do, since it's that time of year, is kind of explain real quick what the budget process is, because it's we're right in the middle of it. We set together when we get the budget ready. What happens is we are in close contact with DLGF, and that's out of the state. And if DLGF stands for the Department of Local Government and Finance, they set the tax rates and the levies for what we're going to be receiving for the year. We take that income along with some other revenues, but the first portion that we do is it's called Form 1. That's a budget estimate. What we do is we do a budget performance report from every department for the first 6 months of the year, so we know where we're at, so we can project where we're going to be for the following year. Now, we do have some things that we have to go by. For instance, on this year, on the budget, a lot of people don't know, but we work with 3 unions. And as part of working with the 3 unions, we did have a 2% raise in for all the associates across the board this year. So that goes with the fire union, the police union, and the AFSCME, which is the Civil and Municipal Employees Union. So that we have to abide by. But as far as the rest of the budget, what we did this year is just because of the inflation that's occurred across everywhere, we've tried to level off the budget to where we're not spending extra, with the exception of our fuel costs. We did increase that. I think we increased that by 20%, which everybody's feeling the crunch at the pump right now. So, and that definitely affected the city. So we take all those into consideration, and what we do is we meet with each of the department heads, kind of find out what their needs are for next year, where they're at this year, looking forward, just kind of get an estimate. Then we also look at all of our estimated revenues, and there's various sources that the city gets for the revenues. Of course, you got the taxes, which will include your local income tax, cigarette tax, You also get revenues from the casino riverboat distribution, et cetera. We also get revenues from the licenses and permits, charges for services, i.e. contracts, like fire protection, and then fines, forfeitures, and fees. And then we balance those off, all of our revenues with what our spending is supposed to be for that year. After we get that figured out, we do one of these. We send out a notice to taxpayers, which I'm sure everybody saw. I think it came out last Friday. And then we prepare an ordinance that goes to city council. Now, the city council is very involved in the budget for the city, and we're doing the same thing this year as we did last year. We've got 3 meetings set up, which is open to the public at City Hall. And they'll ask so many department heads to come in, and we'll go over the budget with the city council and the executive branch and see where we can make adjustments. Now, one thing I will tell you about the budget process, when you're doing that, the city council, you cannot add appropriations to our budget, but they can take it away. So what we've set is set as far as the monies that we're going to be using moving forward, but they can adjust that. And what I mean is you can adjust it in different areas, but you have to stay in the same fund. Okay, for instance, the general fund is Fund 101. We have basically 19 different departments and lines in general fund. You can move things around in the general fund. Now, you cannot move it from one fund to another. For instance, our additional departments that we have fund-wise would be fire, EMS, that's the Center Township, our parks, that is a different fund in 200 series, Prairie Creek, Beech Grove, and motor vehicle, highway, local road, and street. So those have to stay within their budgets, but the general fund we can move around. And after that is done and we have the budget set, then that ordinance will be passed. It's got to be set up in an initial meeting with the city council for review, and then they'll do a passing budget on it. And I will tell you, it's a balanced budget. And Matt and I worked very hard on it, and I think it's what the city needs. And there's when you talk about the finances of the city, what I want to point out on expenses that a lot of people don't understand is what it costs to run the city. How many people just on the top of their head know how much we pay for traffic lights and signals every month? Every month. Just on that, just an average. Yeah, just the electric on the. Any guesses? 40,000 a month. So that's just 1 month to run that. So it's a very extensive budget. A lot of it is tied up in taking care of the city employees, as far as we have a lot of payroll that goes out with that, along with health care. Health care is not cheap, but let me see, what else could I add to that? We can add additional appropriations throughout the year to certain departments, but that has to be done through an ordinance, and it has to go through city council. So, yes, we have to have the money there. Yes. So, with that, I will turn it back over to the mayor.
Okay. So if you have any questions for either the department heads at this time, you could ask them. Otherwise, I'm going to touch base on a couple other items. Any questions at all at this time? Oh. So just so everyone knows, the question was how long. Craig didn't indicate how long he'd been in his position. So
I came in December of last year, so it's been coming up on 2 years. So I came in, Trent Conway was the original controller under the administration. And by the way, Trent did an absolute fantastic job. Hard shoes to follow and fill, but been coming up on 2 years.
good question. Yes. Riverview. Mm-hmm. Well, and that's a great question. So the question is, I had mentioned earlier that we are doing a restroom at Riverview Park, um, and the question was, what does it entail? Because there can be challenges, and I will say there are challenges. We also did a restroom, made it all ADA compliant at another park where we put in a splash pad, and it has been vandalized a couple of times. It's rather frustrating. The neighborhood association, that particular one, is working hard to monitor those things. We've put up some cameras to help monitor those things. So it is a challenge. It's worth it. It's also expensive, but in that Riverview one, there's not a lot of opportunities, at least for the park along Elm Street. That is that green space area. There are at least some restaurants around that would have opportunities for potential restroom usage. Yes. Yep. It's a real challenge. Sometimes we fix them and they get broken pretty quickly. Sometimes. Um, So the comment was about the excitement that has generated around pickleball, which I have not played. I will admit, but we did at Jack's Park. We did redo the court, and it's now lined for both pickleball and/or basketball. And we've got a couple other pickleball ones. We've got a pickleball court ordered. I don't know if I call it two courts, but we've at a couple other parks. We have some that maybe are converting from one thing to pickleball, and we have another one that's coming in. So that is something that we're trying to address because we're seeing that popularity as well. So have you played pickleball yourself? It's fun, huh? That's great. Well, that's great.
They have. I've seen on ESPN. I think they have pickleball championships on there now. So, yes.
Yep. Oh, we love outdoor activities as well, and we're trying to encourage that. So we may reach out to you, and maybe you can become a pickleball coach and/or a disc golf coach. I've got you. Yeah, that's right. So, but it's important, and it's there's so many positives to being outside and exercising, and we've got a great trail system anyway. But so I appreciate your comments. Thank you. One of the reasons we're having the Dream with Dan today at what we affectionately call the Live Learn neighborhood, the McKinley neighborhood, is because we did get those READY grants. So the READY grants are a state grant program. We were one of our particular program. We had been working on this for 2.5 years. When the program became available, we put that into the READY grants. It was accepted by East Central Indiana, which then got accepted by the state. So we're working on that intersection, and I did pass that out to you. Some of the other things that we're looking at is how do we improve the neighborhood? How do we enhance the neighborhood? There are some empty lots. There are some properties we're still in the process of removing, and with some of the challenges that were mentioned earlier, we've got some challenges on some of those vacant houses. So we're looking at how do we make that happen, and we have some developer interest. So we're looking at that corner at Columbus and Walnut. Our expectation is to have a signature building there, which would be a multi-use. We'd love to have retail and/or restaurant on that first floor, and then maybe some apartments or condos above. And then we want to see a lot of single-family home development and a lot of townhome development. You know, I don't know about you guys, but I hear people coming into town all the time, and they're saying, "Where are your townhomes?" And we just don't have them. They want something that's a little easier to manage. It's something that in larger cities and in a lot of areas of the country, they're everywhere. So we're working with Marta Moody, actually Phil Tevis and I, and others, and the group. We've been working on how to make this happen. So those are some of the things that we're looking at doing in the neighborhood. We're probably going to be going in and trying to make some of those things happen. So we expect that you'll be able to see some new activity and construction down the road in your neighborhood, and we feel that's a positive. We really appreciate all of you and what you're doing here in this neighborhood, and we want to try and enhance that however we can. So let's see. How do we want to go about this? Do you have something you want to touch on real quick? Nope? Okay. So okay, we'll go with a question. How's that?
One of the challenges in our neighborhood that we've experienced, and I think other people have too, is we have an older home. We love our home. We've been there a long time. But just in, recent years, excuse me, trying to secure a refinance or anything for our homes has been near impossible because of our property values. And so I know looking towards the future, that's something we can expect probably to increase. But in the meantime, for painting, for fixing things on the outside, for doing what homeowners can do to make our homes more beautiful, to keep up with what's happening in the neighborhood. That's such a challenge.
What a great question. I'm not happy with it, but the comment was that the neighborhood has had some struggles in years past. I had someone, and we've had some people who said they've lived here for a long time, and the improvement has been noticeable, and they're excited about that. But the property values are low enough that it's still too low to where borrowing to do those home improvements is not an easy or, in some cases, not a possible task even. So to come up with those solutions, one of the things is if we have new construction, that will help build up those assessed values, which build up, and that's what the appraisers are looking at. They look at what are the property values in your area. Now, they're allowed to go, with my banking background, I know they're allowed to go beyond the neighborhood, but they also have to they've got rules as appraisers that they have to follow, and so they will try and find similar homes. So you don't necessarily appraise a house in McKinley like you would one that's maybe 3 miles away. So they'll factor that in, but we feel like we're making improvements. I think in 2020, and I don't have the exact numbers, but we have reduced by 90% the number of houses that are up for, and I say we, it's a collective effort. It's been local investors, and it's been the city government, and then others, a part of the project management team for the neighborhood, have reduced the amount of homes going up for tax sale by between 80 and 90% in the last few years. So that's a positive. When you don't have a lot of homes going into tax sale, it means people are taking care of their homes and paying their taxes, and that's a positive sign. I really appreciate that you've been in your neighborhood for a long time. My wife and I also bought an older home. It's an investment, but it's so worth it. And to be in an area that has, in my mind, to be in an area that's in and around trails, that's in and around the river, that's close enough to downtown that I can walk, that's close to this building, Minnetrista, close to other activities on these trails, by parks. That's worth the effort, and I really appreciate your efforts. I can't guarantee you a loan. I don't do that anymore, but we are working on it, and the only way you work on it is by taking that first step and having that developer who builds the building, and then someone else that builds 4 or 5 townhomes, and then someone else that builds 8 or 9 townhomes, and then someone else who's putting in 3 or 4 single-family homes inside the neighborhood, and then the next thing you know, there's a lot for those appraisers to pull from. And that's a long answer, but that's about the best I can offer. And I really appreciate you being here and what you're doing in your neighborhood.
That's part of the hope of paying it forward, get these houses, get some paint on them. And I think the big reason I think we allow the older homes to be absolutely, because even if they own the home, can't actually get financing.
Well, we'll continue to work on that. So the comment was that even if you own your home free and clear, sometimes on older homes it's difficult to get the financing to even do the additional home improvements that you want to do by financing. So it's a challenge, but we're going to work through it, and we're going to. I know I can't say here's how it's going to happen, but it is a challenge, but it can be corrected, and I think we're in the process of it. The fact that there are I remember 3 years ago coming to this neighborhood association meeting, and there were 3 people, 1, 2, and then 1 other who's not here tonight. That's it. So the fact that you now have all of this, a number of people here, and you're having there are fewer challenges as far as vacant homes. There are still challenges, but there's improvement, and so we're on our way. Yes. Well, and so and I don't know how to repeat that. Do you want to repeat that?
She said it's encouraging to hear all of the comments and to have the participation, I think, here in the room. So, and she's encouraged as a homeowner. So, I would also like to kind of to your point about the lending issue with the home. Some of this I think comes probably from the Frank Dodd Act when they were trying to protect. When we had the big kind of mortgage crash. And so it takes talking to federal representatives as well who write these bills, who can make amendments to these bills that can open up doors for homeowners like yourself to actually get the financing that they need. It'd be a program probably that would kind of lift that gate. I actually did some banking not work, but banking casework for a congressman back in the early 2000s here in Muncie. And I was there when that bill came to effect, and I saw how overnight you couldn't refinance your home. And so they've had to work through a lot of issues like that. So this far down the road, there's still issues. And we know some people at the federal level, and maybe just kind of making some calls and making sure they're aware of the issues that are going on in our community, and that I'm sure that they'll be happy to hear from us.
So the question was, are there companies that have an interest in building townhomes and or single family homes in this neighborhood? And the answer is yes. So that is really what we're working to do, and there are some local investors who have the same desire, and then you have a city administration that has that desire, and what we're finding is we have investors that are definitely willing, and a part of it is the why coming there is going to make a difference. And so, but yes, there are. I have a number of different organizations and developers who have expressed an interest. And we're just trying to make sure that we do this in the right way, that it meets the neighborhood's needs. We want to keep the standards similar to what they are. So we're not wanting to. We want to make sure that I mean, there's a lot of two-story homes. But we don't want to require two-story, but we want to have a certain look and feel and a certain gable to the house. And so there are things like that that we're working through right now, and we'll touch with you again on it, I'm sure. You have a question back there? Oh, yes. So the question was, there's a lot next to you. It's owned by the Muncie Redevelopment Commission. You have been told by someone who's a city employee that it is going to be built on, and so you wanted to know if that's continuing. So I hate that I'm having to repeat it for the group here, but I needed to repeat it for the audience outside of this building. I will say I'm not certain any longer that that building is going to. So that is now an open. It may be an open lot that's available for somebody else to build a house on. So I don't believe that one is going to be the program that originally had been signed up. Well, there were plans. I believe those have fallen through. So if you're interested in maintaining it, you might want to readdress it. Or if somebody else, I think, is probably going to buy it who wants to build. You would like a neighbor. Okay. Okay. Yes. So yes, so the expectation we want to infill these lots with homes. We want people in this neighborhood. That's what we want. We want people in Muncie. Muncie has between Muncie and Delaware County, there are literally were 400 empty jobs, and then we just have 600 new ones with the new plants that just opened up. And then when you add what Accutech is doing and what Brick Red Systems with their IT hub is doing, we want the people to live here. And so we've got to provide housing options for those people to live here and not be commuting from somewhere else. So I see that particular lot as an opportunity for somebody to build and live and make Muncie their home and become part of our community. And that's the goal. And they'd have a great neighbor. A great neighbor. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. So the concern is that there's another vacant lot. The city owns it, probably Muncie Redevelopment Commission. The grass is being cut, yay, but there is some shrubbery that's been growing up, and unfortunately also some poison ivy has grown rampant. So we don't have that tip. We try and cut the grass, and typically it's every 2 weeks. Yes. Well, that is not, should not be your responsibility. We love it. If you want to do more, let us know. But yeah, and we've got openings. We have, I appreciate your comment, and you're at the 204 East Columbus. Okay. So we'll make a note, and I'll get with the building commissioner and see what can be done. Yep. I know. Yep. That one's a challenge. Any other questions? How are we doing on time, Mark? Okay.
Elm Street sidewalk. Any news? Sidewalk replacement for Elm Street?
Well, we did some sidewalk replace. So the question was any additional Elm Street sidewalks being done. So we did a large section of Elm Street. We tried to take care of the ones that were major challenged, and we did all intersections. Well, we can talk to the contractor on that. I don't know that I would agree 100%, because I would say that it is better, because that, along with the other parts that we did with sidewalks, we've now done 236 ADA compliant sidewalks. And so I think that I understand. So but I'm just saying that just by putting the ADA compliant makes it better. It's all so expensive. It's you have to kind of pick and choose, and unfortunately we're in a city that has not had a major growth spurt yet, and so that means our tax rates are roughly the same, and yet we're giving 2% to employees, all employees, and how many hundreds were there? I mean, so it's a real challenge. I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying it's a real challenge. And so we're trying to, that's another reason we want to get these lots with houses on them, so that people are paying some property tax rather than paying tax on just a lot. And they can move in and redo the sidewalk. That's a great point. That's a great point.
I know Adam Leach, our city engineer, he's done a lot with the staff out there, and one of the things he's doing is a construction crew, and I think concrete work is one of the things that they're going to be focused on. It just takes, they have to have the shift, they have to set it up, they have to notice the employees. So there's a whole process, and he's been going through that process so that he can have a crew that can actually be available for the amount of time it actually takes to do concrete. So that'll save us some money. And trained on it now, and they are. So, yeah, so I know he's done a lot of work around that with the staff.
Well, don't turn. No, I'm kidding. Don't turn. So the comment is that on another street, the sidewalk needs to be done. We knew we only had the money to do what we did in sidewalks, because we did I think a total of 18 different sidewalk projects. The main thing I was looking for is putting in ADA compliance and taking areas that had no sidewalks, for example, from Aldi North to those apartments and to those neighborhoods, there was no sidewalk. People walking down a busy Walnut Street. So we picked what we thought could have an impact, and we spent every penny that we had on that. We've got some more scheduled. Adam would know, but I don't know exactly what. But we've got more sidewalks that we're doing in 23. But yes. It will, when we do, as we continue to do Columbus, it's going to be in pretty good shape on Columbus, because that's going to be one of the first things. And then as we start getting more and more people moving into the area, we will be addressing the other areas as well. So any other questions? And none for the controller? Nobody? Okay. Yes. So this question, and this is good for this particular broadcast. Just an update on what's going on with the Greenway. I can give you some of the information, but if I miss anything, Phil can help me out. But right now, at that particular Greenway, there were two bridges. One was not operable, and it has one big base in the water. I don't know if that's what it's called, but one brace in the water. The one that's been used has two. And what the federal government or the Army Corps of Engineers, what they track is how much water is being blocked by those bases. And so it was determined by a group of people at the sanitary district or others that if we made the bridge that has just the one base in the water functional to where people could walk and ride their bikes and utilize it, and then tore down the one that has two, that it would save the city of Muncie and all of us as taxpayers and ratepayers. It could save us money because of how the calculations are done. Do I have that? So it's roughly $1.5 million in savings. So what's happening is they're building first. They're making that bridge so that it is functional. And then they will, once that happens, then they will adjust the trail so that it goes through there, and then they'll tear down the other bridge. So down the road, it'll just be the one bridge going across, and it'll save us $1.5 million. So the question was, how can they have those savings? And it's because it actually impacts an area downriver to where you don't have to build the levee as high. And so in the end, it saves the district and therefore the city and the ratepayers and the taxpayers of the Muncie Sanitary District $1.5 million. And that levee protects Central High School. So that's important, very important. One last question.
It's also putting a line under the railroad track. You just go under the viaduct and look back to your right. Extremely, they built a thing with a big pipe coming out, about so big around. So that's part of the water thing. Just a bit of water, extra water.
Okay. So there's some additional work down along the bank with some piping as well. Okay. Okay. So the question is, when is the trail going to open up again? What's the projected time frame? Okay. So the trail will open May. The new bridge will open up around May-ish of 23, and then they'll demolish the other one. And that work can be done while you can still use you'll be able to use the new trail, which will go across the other bridge. I know. It's a great resource, and and just for those who are watching, I'm just so excited. We do not have mountains, and we do not have oceans, but when it comes to what we have trails, and we've got a river, and it's very, very enticing to people. I didn't talk about this in my update, but we've now had 26 people move here as remote workers, coming from areas that did have mountains. And they're looking for a different life, not just for a place with trails, but they're looking for a different lifestyle, and we provide that. We've got great things in Muncie. So just keep all that in mind. I'm going to go ahead and thank everybody who's here in the audience. Thank you, Bruce, for letting us do this. Thank you to Craig for being here tonight, and Mikah. We appreciate all you being here, and we'll talk to you next month on Dream with Dan.